market stuff, it's like, guys, this is like actually not the right way to think about it. It's like passenger vehicles right now only see about 10 to 12 hours of use per week. There's 168 hours in a week. If those vehicles are autonomous, they're probably going to get used for 50 or 60 hours a week. That's a 5x increase in the value of a car, and it costs the same to make the car. At that point, you basically have software margins in a hardware product. Total addressable market is everyone.
Powerful. So let's switch gears to SpaceX, hitting first Starlink. What can you tell us about Starlink and the scale and deployment and how that's going?
Yeah, the Starlink team is doing an amazing job. More than half of all satellites in orbit right now are Starlink satellites. So if you add up all satellites launched cumulatively, they are less than Starlink. So Starlink is currently providing global connectivity. You can get connectivity anywhere on Earth, from the most remote part of Antarctica to San Francisco, anywhere. It's full global connectivity, high bandwidth, and low latency. The latency is important because unless you're in low Earth orbit, you cannot get low latency. The geostationary satellites are up, very, very high. You've sort of got sometimes up to a second of latency from a geostationary satellite, all things inclusive. Whereas with Starlink satellites, we believe we can get the latency under 20 milliseconds. And in fact, for international communications, an interesting thing is that in fiber, light travels much slower than in aero vacuum. So in rough approximation, light travels about 300 kilometers per millisecond in air and vacuum, but only just roughly over 200 kilometers per millisecond in fiber. So you've got like a sort of on roughly 40% increase in speed of light going through the Starlink system than through fiber, and it can also follow a more direct route instead of following the sort of coastline of the continents. It can actually have a more direct route. So it's a shorter route and inherently faster from a physics standpoint. So it connects the world way better than fiber, and it will provide and is providing connectivity to people that either never had it before or where their options were extremely expensive or very low bandwidth. So it's helping out a lot of communities that never had access, especially when you consider that education is digital these days. That's really how you can learn anything. You can basically learn anything. You can basically learn anything for free on the internet if you have the internet. So in terms of providing education abilities to remote communities, Starlink is doing a lot of good in that regard.
Lastly, the launch, whether Falcon 9 Heavy or Starship, I think you had the static fire test that went well, and what can you tell us about the next phase on launch?
Yeah, so we're getting ready for the first launch of Starship. This is a very difficult program. The rocket is roughly 2.5 times the thrust of a Saturn V. So if or once it reaches orbit, it'll be by far the biggest rocket to reach orbit. But more importantly, it is designed to be the first fully reusable rocket, orbital rocket ever. So the key to extending life beyond Earth is a fully and rapidly reusable orbital rocket. This is a very hard problem given the constraints of Earth. Earth has a thick atmosphere and strong gravity. It is only barely possible to do this. That's why it has not been done before. But we're getting close for our first orbital attempt of Starship. Hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have our first attempt. I'm not saying it'll get to orbit, but I am guaranteeing excitement. So it won't be boring. I think it's got, I don't know, hopefully above 50% chance of reaching orbit, and then we're building a whole series of Starships in South Texas, and so I think we've got, I don't know, hopefully about an 80% chance of reaching orbit this year. It'll probably take us a couple more years to achieve full and rapid reusability, which I can't emphasize enough, is it is the profound breakthrough that is needed to extend life beyond Earth, because it lowers the cost of access to space by orders of magnitude. In the same way that if let's say there were no airplanes that were reusable, how expensive would air flight be? It would be insane. You'd have to buy a new airplane every time you flew somewhere, and you have to tow a small airplane behind you for the return flight. So, that's just not going to scale. So assuming things go well there, this vehicle it could make life multiplanetary. That's a really big deal. It could make life on Mars real, and I think that's one of the great filters that any civilization has to pass through, which is, does the civilization become multiplanetary or not? This is one of the elements of the Fermi paradox. I sort of wonder that if we are able to get to multiplanetary, that'll be a forcing function for ultimately improving spaceflight to become multistellar, to go to other star systems. And I think we may discover that there are many long-dead one-planet civilizations. We don't want to be one of those. We don't want to be one of those lame one-planet civilizations. Please.
I think we're going to wrap on that. Thank you, Elon Musk.
All right, thanks.